Welcome back. In this chapter, we will discuss the ethical considerations impacting educational practices. Here's objectives for today. Parents are the one who know the child best, right? Parents are considered to have the most knowledge about their children, and educator must listen to and discuss issues about which parents express concerns. Parents investments of interest, concern, time, effort are likely to be greater when they perceive themselves as active partners in their children's education. So, educators should acknowledge the expertise and level of understanding that parents bring to the table, and they can learn from each other. This approach will allow teachers and parents to create and implement beneficial learning experience for children. Educators have a legal and ethical responsibility to ensure parents' involvement in school, and they must act in an ethical manner when they're communicating with parents in other families. So, in this chapter, we will think about ethical considerations and practices in education, and also talk about the definitions of ethics and barriers to ethical and confidential practices when working with families. Okay, ethical practice is related to professionals' demonstrations of essential skills, competency, and dispositions that influence their behaviors towards students, families, colleagues, and communities, and affects learning, motivation, and development, as well as the educator's own professional growth. Educators must be fair and must respect all families and demonstrate advocacy, trust, and effective communication skills. This is an important quality indicator for teachers, but many teachers easily overlook this ethical dimensions of professional practice because they have many other things to do, like teaching, and they think that this is additional work for them, and they have not learned the ethics through when they have not learned this ethics enough when they were in teacher preparation program. So as we are doing it now, learning about ethics, this is important task for you, and these are the things you must keep in mind. Educational professional organizations have ethical codes that emphasize prevention of detrimental practice related to interactions with children and youth, parents, and other family members, and also colleagues. These codes provide frameworks for ethical behaviors as well as general supports to professionals when they face ethical dilemmas that test their commitment to maintaining exemplary standards of practice. For example, National Educational Association NEA codes of ethics concerns commitment to the students and commitment to the profession. For example, according to them, NAE, teachers cannot restrain or deny students' pursuit of learning or varying point of view, nor can they alter contents knowledge to inhibit students' progress. Likewise, NAEYC and CC consider the education of children birth through 8 years old of age without disability and related to educators' obligations to establish and maintain high academic and social standards for those students and families. So they provided a guideline for special educator to identify professional behaviors, to communicate with family, and establish effective partnership with parents. Something like developing effective communication with parents by avoiding professional jargon and using the primary language of the home and other communication modes when appropriate. The primary consideration when discussing education codes of ethics is to acknowledge the ethical principle of first, do no harm. In education, the principle of doing no harms connotes the idea that no harm should occur when teaching children and youth and when interacting with other people, including parents. First, children. The notion of preventing no harms to children is infused throughout the Safe Schools Manual by NAE 2005. The manual provides suggestions for teachers to facilitate cooperative relationship between home and school and deter potential harmful events to children. Parent support of and parents' participation in education is the key to children's success in school. So NAE suggests guidelines that promotes positive relationship between educators and parents and other family members too. The guideline includes something like this, like regularly communicating with family, establishing work helpline to assist students when they incur difficulty completing assignments. However, teachers often experience ethical dilemmas and value conflicts in parents and professional relations that related to racial, ethnic, cultural differences, diverse family structures, and disparity in child rearing practices. But teachers must keep in mind that, as NAE guided, teachers and school district cannot against any family members because of their race, color, gender, political perspective, and religious belief, etc. NAE also highlight stereotyping, prejudice, and labeling due to those cultural factors are undeniably harmful and interfere with people's access to high-quality education programs and their civil rights. Therefore, as you see in figure 9.2 in page 180, teachers can use the guideline for appropriate positive behaviors and interactions when working with families and children which are addressed in the Safe School Manual by NAE. The guideline includes distribute parenting tips related to nutrition and homework help, and model appropriate communication skills, which include speaking in quiet voices and using positive rather than negative statements with children. So please take a look at figure 9.2 and keep in mind when you interacting and working with children and family. Using the codes of ethics, many researchers suggest explicit guideline and direction for applying those codes when teachers are interacting family members and parents. So the chapter summarizes the step-by-step strategy teacher can use when confronting ethical dilemmas when interacting with parents and other family members. So to solve the problem and make ethical decision, teacher can first identify the ethical issue, brainstorm solution to ethical dilemma, analyze the risk and benefits of the solutions, and choose a course of action, take action and assume responsibility for this decision, evaluate the result of decision-making process, evaluate result of the action, assume responsibility for consequences, correct negative consequences, or reflect on the decision-making process. And pages 188 to 191 provided the useful examples of the steps, these step processes. So please take a look at the example at those pages. Lastly, there are always barriers to initiating and maintaining ethical and confidential practice when working with parents and other family members. As we talk through this semester, these barriers can include lack of effective communication, use of educational jargons, lack of trust, varied point of view from teachers and families, and scheduling and space issue, among others. So these barriers can occur anytime, and it is teachers' responsibility to overcome the barriers, and they must have ability and skill overcome and deal with those barriers.